Hey everybody, it is June 16th, 2026. It is a Tuesday. This is Gen X Speaks. Today, one of the things I do with my time on these platforms is to kind of parrot things that I find that are to be important to parrot. And today I kind of want to push, if you go onto YouTube and look up Brian Tyler Cohen's latest kind of podcast or interview. It is with Timothy Snyder, a author, guy who's my age actually, and he's an author who wrote on tyranny basically for the 20th century, lessons from the 20th century, 20 lessons from the 20th century. And the reason I think you should go take a look at this is because he talks about exactly what's going on now with regard to the tyrannical regime we have in power in this country, and how it's basically his views on where we're headed. And I think, honestly, it's one of the most important interviews I've seen in a while. I think people should really look at and really take to heart. And part of what he talks about is the Democratic Party itself, and how this is really their chance to lose it. Basically, and I will kind of bring this down to a nutshell, that this election in 2026, if the Democrats win it, and on day one they don't create actual punishment for what's been done and make fundamental change to the system that's in place, if they don't push forward immediately and create consequences for all the bullshittery that's been going on in this government since Trump took power in January of 2025, all is lost. Because if they don't do that, what will happen is that it will create a system of distrust in this country, because Americans right now are pissed off. There's radicalism on both sides, and they want change. Americans want change. We want change. I want change. You want change, most likely, if you're watching this. And fundamental change at that. If they don't do that, there'll be no confidence in the Democrats. And in 2028, some dipshit, probably Tucker Carlson, will become president, and God knows what other kind of bullshittery will continue. Basically, what Timothy Snyder is saying is that all will be lost with regard to what we think America is. And he says, really, there is, even with democracy in America right now, you can't go back to what it was. You have to tear it down and start over. And the problem with the mainline Democrats, and yes, I harp on them a lot, and I harp on them a lot because of all I have to vote for. The problem with mainline Democrats is they seem to believe that their goal is to pull everyone to the middle. And that's not what people want. People don't want the middle. And the reason they do that, I think a lot of it is because most of them are boomers, okay? Most of them want 20th century politics in the 21st century. They don't want to see progress like most Americans want to see progress. They want it to go back to the way it was before the far right took over, before the Tea Party. Which is why I believe they're not pushing as hard as they need to stop this madness. So the bottom line here is that this election coming up in 2026 is the most important election we will see in United States history, possibly. Because if it doesn't go well, if we don't get people into power who are going to immediately change the disaster that we're faced with, the rest of this, the rest of the way down the line, is going to be disaster, one disaster after another. And frankly, if it comes to that, I mean, we seriously as a nation are going to have to start looking at other options, because I don't see how this country will be able to heal. Nor does Timothy Snyder, by the way. There will be no reconciliation. And really, you're going to start looking at, I think at that point, you're going to start looking at factions where, the United States will cease to exist and there will be break-off republics. I mean, and it sounds, a lot of people think that's crazy and outlandish, but I don't see why. It's happened throughout history. This kind of stuff happens over and over again. And one of the points that Timothy Snyder makes in this interview is that history is not at all cyclical. It can go any number of ways. The history is not on your side, ever. There are similarities. Certainly there are similarities, and there are themes that seem to recur over and over throughout history, including the tyranny that we're currently under. But no one bit of history is the same. Every situation is different. The United States is a different country than it's ever existed. So to expect a similar outcome from something else, not really going to happen. The one thing I will say, and he pointed out, is that the Democrats are much like the Social Democrats in Germany of the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 30s, in that they were the party that was the only party that really wanted progress. But then up comes the Nazis, the radicals, who took over. And so the Social Democrats then had to play to the status quo in order to be able to fight the Nazis, which of course in the end didn't really work, and it took a world body to remove the Nazis from power, as we all know. So and that's actually a good lesson to learn, because the Democrats are doing exactly the same thing here. They're playing to the center. They're playing to the status quo. They want to play to the status quo because they feel like that's how they have to defeat, or feel like it's how they have to fight MAGA. But the reality is, you fight MAGA by going to the other side and then providing consequences for the crimes that they've committed. That's how you do this. If they don't do it, I'm sorry to say, the outcome's not going to be so great. Anyway, again, I would go to YouTube and look at, I think it was just released today, June 16th, Brian Tyler Cohen's podcast on YouTube, interview with Timothy Snyder. And if you don't have his book on tyranny, I would pick it up. I've got it. It's interesting. And he's an interesting guy to listen to. Really kind of sheds light on their situation and kind of smacks you upside the face of reality. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. You have a good day.